Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ben Phillips. I will be teaching you Rock 101 today. And so we're going to start right away. Take your guitar, look at it. It is your axe, it is your instrument, it is your instrument of destruction. This is rock, after all. So let's talk about all the parts of the guitar. You want to start treating it like it is your body. Guitar players do sleep with their guitars quite often. I am not one of them. So up here we have our headstock. We have our tuning pegs right here. The neck of the guitar, the fretboard is the whole front of the neck. These metal rods are the actual frets. The nut is this little saddle up here that holds the strings. And over here we have the body, obviously. The bridge, a very important thing to keep note of. This is the bridge of the guitar because we'll talk about direction a lot, and back to the bridge or up to the neck. Your volume knobs and your tone knobs, your toggle switch, which switches between your pickups, which are the things that actually amplify the guitar. They create a magnetic field that rings and you actually can hear the guitar through an amplifier. So, on your left hand, your fingers are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when I talk about your fingering positions and things like that, I'll say first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. I'm tuned to A440 proper, so I'm in proper tuning. Rock these days is getting very, very into open tuning and drop tuning, and we'll talk about that. But right now we are in standard tuning, so if you have a tuner, use it. If you don't, here are your notes. Here is your E. Your B. Your G. Your D. A. Alright, now that you're all tuned up, we are going to learn the names of the strings. This is a very important thing because, again, it's kind of paint by numbers guitar at this point. So you're going to want to know your finger numbers and your string names and numbers. So first, the numbers of the strings. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So since guitar players are kind of crazy, this is not the first string. The first string is not the one closest to you. It is the one farthest away from you. Why that is, I actually don't know, and I don't care, but it is kind of stupid. Alright, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the names of the strings, we have E, A, D, G, B, E. There's lots and lots of rhymes that go along with that. You have Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie. You have Easter bunnies get drunk after Easter. And there's some other ones that use profanity that we won't get into now. So, now we're going to play your first notes on the guitar. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your first finger and you are going to put it on the first fret of the first string. Now, when you fret the guitar for the first time and all the time, you want to get very used to getting right up to the fret. The closer you get to the fret, the less tension you have to push down on the guitar, so on the strings. So, get right up to the fret, and you don't want to get on the fret, you want to go right behind the fret. So if this is the actual first fret, you're playing right behind it. And we're going to play that note, and you're going to push down. Now, if you have problems, if that didn't ring true, you're doing one of two things. You were not pushing down hard enough, which is the most common thing, or somewhere along the line you're muting it somewhere, meaning you are touching the string with other fingers or with something, maybe a shirt or something that is keeping the note from ringing true. So let's try that again. You're going to play the first fret of the first string. Now we are going to jump around. We are going to play the second fret of the third string with our second finger. Alright, now third fret, sixth string, third finger. Alright, so that's the way you're going to be fretting the guitar. So let's go back now. We're going to talk about how we move up and down the neck. Again, you're just learning lingo at this point, and learning how to put your fingers down on the guitar. So, first fret, first finger, first string. Now, when I talk about moving up on the guitar, I'm moving this way because you're moving up in pitch. So this is not up, this is up. This is down. Okay, so first finger, first fret, first string. Now skip a fret and go to the next fret, which will be the third fret. That space is called a whole step. When you skip a fret and go to the next fret, that's called a whole step. Very important because we move in whole steps and half steps. A half step is just up one fret. So now you can move up a whole step or up a half step. Okay, so those are generally the two ways I'm going to talk about how to move on the guitar. All right, now we are ready to do your first lesson and actually play this thing. Rock. All right, now we are doing rock chords 101. All right, so we're going to start with open chords. What you're going to be learning in the first few months of guitar are chords and scales. Those are the two things that you're going to be working on. Chords are playing multiple notes at once, and scales are playing single notes at once. All right, so right now we're going to start with chords, and the first thing that you learn, and pretty much as far as anyone goes with the guitar, is open chords. Open chords will allow you to play most songs that you want to play, and again, the trick to all this is playing as many songs as you can, because that will get you to practice as much as possible. So you want to, all the bands that you like, everything that you listen to, you want to go online, you want to get the tabs, you want to find the chords, and you want to start playing songs. The more you practice, obviously, the better you're going to get. Most guys, including myself, that do this like this, they're playing 8 hours a day, they're playing 6 hours a day. When I was a kid, you're playing 12 hours a day. So it does take a lot of practice. For adults, people who have jobs and things like that, still treat it like exercise. Try to do it every day for a good amount of time, a half an hour. Just like a muscle, if you don't do it, it goes away. So, the first thing we are going to learn, we're going to learn 3 chords, and we are going to start with a G chord, which is one of the most popular chords, and it is an open chord. And you're going to put your third finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. You're going to reach around, and you're going to put your first finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string, or the A string. And you're going to put your 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 6th string. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and it kind of looks like a claw. My thumb is dropped to the back of the neck, and I'm pushing down. I'm utilizing my first joint of the fingers to kind of do a claw-like effect, so I'm not touching any other strings. And I'm close to all the frets with all the fingers, and then I'm going to put my palm down, I'm going to bring my hand up, and I'm going to strum a G chord. All right, there you go. Now, what you want to do is you want to play through each note. And every note should ring clean. If every note isn't ringing clean, one of two things is happening. Again, you're either touching the other strings with your fingers, or something else is muting it, or you're not pushing down hard enough. So there's 3 things. So again, you want to get right up to the fret, you want to push down hard, and you want to strum that chord. All right, so after you have done that, we're going to move on to our second chord, and if you notice, that chord utilized all the strings. This next chord is going to start, and when you see it in the tablature on the website, you'll see this, you'll see strings that are X'd off. Strings that are X'd off, you do not play. A string that is circled, that means open, and then the other ones will be what fret you're on. This next chord is a D chord, and you're going to put your first finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. You're going to put your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and you're going to put your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. None of that made any sense to me. I hope it made sense to you. All right, so we're going to start with a D chord, and we're going to strum from the 4th string down. Now remember, you're counting up to the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's called feedback. That'll get you a girlfriend later if you're a guy. All right, so this is a D chord. Now again, just like the G chord, you want to play through each note. And make sure they're all ringing clearly. If they weren't, if that sounded like that, you're not getting the job, so you want to go back and practice that again and make sure that you really claw down on those. Push down hard. Now, of course, in the beginning guitar, don't forget that it will hurt your fingers. You will develop calluses. I can bite the ends of my fingers off and spit them at you. That's how much callus, that's how much dead skin is on the end of your fingers at the end of it. So it will hurt in the beginning, but just shake it off and get back to it and build those calluses and rock. All right, so now we have G, we have D, and we're going to try now one of the harder open chords that people seem to have a problem with. It's called a C chord. And it goes something like this. You're going to put your first finger on the first fret of the B string or the second string. You're going to put your second finger on the second fret of the fourth string or the D string. And you're going to put your third finger on the third fret of the fifth string or the A string. And we're going to strum from the fifth string down. Okay, and again. Okay, now you might find yourself having a hard time hitting from the fifth string down. It's kind of hard to get that dexterity going. Eventually it won't matter all that much. Again, these are all just rules that you're only learning to break later. So if you start breaking them now, that's cool, but just know what you're doing. So if you end up having that open E in the bottom, very Neil Young, very Pink Floyd, not a problem. I don't care if you don't. Okay, so we have three chords. We have G, we have D, and we have C. Now, this is where most people get frustrated because it is very kind of time consuming to memorize those chords. Your job is to memorize those chords so you can switch between them quickly. You're going to have to be able to do that to play a song. So we're going to start right away with practicing those three chords and you playing the song. We're going to go from G to D to C. And what we're going to be doing with our right hand now, let's get to some right hand action. We are going to be doing downstrokes only. A downstroke is when your hand goes like that, obviously. An upstroke is like that. And they have certain insignias that you can see on the website that they're designated. A downstroke looks like an N and an upstroke looks like a U. So we're going to just do 2 downstrokes per chord. And I like to start counting off everything whenever I play a song. So tapping your foot, counting to 4. Most songs that you're going to learn are in a time signature called 4/4, which means that there's 4 beats per measure, which means that you count to 4 over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are going to encompass 2 chords per bar, which means each is going to get 2 beats. So you're going to do 2 strums per chord. And then when you get to the C, we're going to do 4. So it's going to sound like this. So that's the first song that you're playing. That's about 7,000 songs, so you figure out which ones you like. It's Knock on Heaven's Door, modified, or virtually everything else. Not very complicated, so once you actually learn Smells Like Teen Spirit, you'll wonder why you don't have $10 million. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to learn some more chords. So that was the first 3 chords that you can learn, so go practice those, rock, and when you're done, come back, learn the next 3, and let's play a tune. Alright, now that you have learned 3 major chords, again we did G major, D major, and C major. They're major chords, very polite chords. We're going to minor chords now, which minor chords are very darker, and we're going to do 3 open minor chords. We're going to start with E minor, probably one of the most popular chords because of its ease, and it's also really cool sounding, so it's a cool sounding chord. We're going to put our second finger on the second fret of the 5th string, or the A string. We are going to then put our third finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. So if you see they're in consecutive strings, same fret and everything, so you kind of have to tuck them up. So in this instance, you're not going to be able to bring your second finger as close to the fret as I was telling you earlier. But that's okay, that's how it works sometimes. So now we're going to strum all the strings, starting with the low E string or the 6th string. Sounding chord, again, pick through each note and make sure that all the notes ring out. Now, next chord, A minor. We are going to put our first finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. We are going to put our second finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, or the D string. We're going to put our third finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So again, two fingers on the 2nd fret. And we're going to strum this from the 5th string down. So from the A string. Okay? And now, again, I think I might have talked about this earlier, but raking and strumming are 2 different things. What I just did was a rake. When you play kind of all the notes like this, that's called raking. What we're trying to do is a strum. You're trying to hit all the notes at once. Really use your right hand here. So your right hand's going to become your attitude for the guitar. So make sure you have, play loud. Don't worry about playing loudly. Play quiet. Really moderate how loud and quiet you play with your right hand, and don't be afraid of it. Feel free to crash into that guitar and then bring it back. Okay, so the next chord is a D minor chord, and we are going to put our first finger on the 1st fret of the 1st string. We're going to put our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and we're going to put our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Okay, so again, paint by number guitars. I know it's complicated once in a while. 1, 2, 3, 9, 6, 5, but it's easy, and that's how we're learning. Because rock should be easy, if anything. All right, so we're going to strum this chord from the 4th string down, from the D string. All right, so again, you want those notes to all ring cleanly. Okay, so now you know 3 minor chords: E minor, A minor, and D minor, and 3 major chords: G, D, and C. Now we're going to do the same thing with the minor chords that we did with the major chords. We're going to do a strumming pattern with them, and we're going to do a little different now. So now we're going to just to throw something in there, I'm going to have you strum down and up. Okay, so you're going to go down, up on each chord. And we're going to go E minor, A minor, D minor. And you're going to go down, up. Okay, now it is going to get kind of tricky to make sure that you're strumming from the 4th string down on the D minor, the A minor, and the E minor. But when it becomes too hard, just make sure you get really precise and you can strum a little less hard. Maybe move your arm a little less than I was. I was really moving my arm there. A couple tips on strumming, which we'll get into later, kind of more specifically. But your strumming really occurs, and picking in general, it's from the elbow to the wrist to the fingers. So when I'm speed picking, I'm really using my elbow for that. So the elbow is your first line of defense with that. Then it goes to your wrist. Then it goes to your fingers. You don't want to be using these fingers to be strumming. That doesn't give you any technique, and it doesn't get you any speed or dexterity. It looks lame. So you always want to look cool. Rock 101 look cool. So when you buy a guitar, the nicer one that isn't as pretty. No, get the cheaper one that looks cooler. Okay, so. Now we are going to put all those chords together. So just as an exercise, and again, you'll be able to find lots of songs online that have these chord changes. But we're going to do, as an exercise, Let It Be by the Beatles. And we're going to do it in the key of G instead of the key of C where the Beatles do it in. Because the chords are different in the key of C. But we're going to be doing the key of G. So the chords are going to be going G, and every chord gets 2 strums. So G to D to E minor to C. Alright, so that's the beginning of that song, and that's all you need to know. So what you're going to do is you're going to sit there for hours on end going. Now, most students ask, what are the tricks to changing chords quickly? This is where everyone becomes frustrated in the beginning with guitar, and this is kind of where they stop if they get too frustrated. You don't really want to use tricks. There are lots of tricks to guitar, lots of tricks to easier playing. I am going to show you some of them in a little while. But right now, I want you to play aggressively, correctly. So you're not going to be doing any tricks. You're going to be playing the chords the way they are, and you're going to try and get that as good as you can. And then later on, we'll learn how to do other little things that make it easier to transition between chords. Okay, so there's your first lesson on chords, open chords. Those are 6 chords that you can play lots of songs with again. And if you just get that far, you'll have gone a pretty good distance in being able to play songs. And again, the whole deal here is being able to play music. The next thing that we're going to go into is scales and single note playing. So that will be the next version of this lesson. So master the open chords, and then you can move on to scales. Hello, back again. Rock 101 here. So, you learned how to play some open chords now. Now you can strum some G's and C's. That's all good and fine, but we all really want to get to the point where we can shred big rock leads. That is what this was kind of built for, or at least pointed towards. So, in order to do that, you got to start with learning scales. Again, there's two ways to play chords: multiple notes, or scales, or scale-like playing, which is single note playing. So, the first thing that we're going to do, and now we're going to start learning also the notes on the neck and things like that. And I like to learn the notes on the neck by learning scales or chords from those notes. So instead of learning all the notes on the neck first, we're going to just go right into playing. The first scale that we're going to do is also an exercise. Again, scales are going to be used for exercises a lot, warming up and things like that. And we're going to play a major scale. And this is something that you have to master. It will be everything that you need to know about music is inside this scale. We are learning contemporary theory or jazz theory or pop theory, whatever you want to call it. We're not doing classical theory. So all of the stuff that rock players do is based on the major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's the major scale. Know it, learn it, live it, love it, know it. All right, so I'm going to teach you two major scales, two versions of the same scale. So we are going to start with a G major scale, and the way we know what the scale is what the first note is, and that is called the root note or the tonic. So the root note designates the key of something. In this instance, the root note is a G, and it is the 3rd fret of the 6th string. Okay, and if you notice, it's also the root note in the G chord, right, which makes the G chord a G chord. So, we are going to start with our second finger. Our thumb is going to drop behind the neck. Two ways to hold the neck. One is with your thumb up, and one is with your thumb behind the neck, and your wrist comes out. And often when playing scales, I like to have my wrist out, because that means that you can spread your fingers across the fretboard much better than with your thumb up. You can't do that. So, we're going to drop our thumb to the back of the neck, tuck in our elbow to our body, and we're going to bring our wrist out. It's a very uncomfortable position for people who first start playing. They're not used to it. You will get used to it, so get used to it. Now, 3rd fret, 6th string, 2nd finger. Remember to get right up to the fret, get right close to the fret. Don't get on the fret, right behind it. Palm on the bridge, picking up. Your pick then, your thumb becomes parallel to the strings, not perpendicular. And the pick is perpendicular between them. So your thumb is basically parallel to the strings. And I'm showing very little pick. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm showing very little pick. The less pick you show, the quicker you can play, and the more pick you show, the more you can kind of flail. So we're using kind of a minimal amount of picking here, a little minimal amount of pick, so we can start to shred this as fast as possible. So we're doing all downstrokes right now, and we're going to downstroke. 3rd fret, 6th string. That's going to go then next to the 5th fret of the 6th string with your 4th finger, or pinky, as we like to call it here in America. All right. Now we're going to jump to the next string, and we're going to do the 2nd fret of the 5th string with our 1st finger. That's going to go then up to the 3rd fret of the 5th string with our 2nd finger. And then we're going to go to the 5th fret of the 5th string with our pinky, or 4th finger. Then we're going to go to the 2nd fret of the 4th string with our 1st finger. 4th fret, 4th string, 3rd finger. And then finally, we're going to end off with the 5th fret of the 4th string with our 4th finger. All right, so played up, all downstrokes. Okay, now it's important to try and not let other notes ring and stuff, so all of that again comes from muting things with your fingers, and we'll get into that as we start to play faster. Let's play that one more time. Good. Now, after after you can do that, we're going to change it up a little bit and we're going to alternate pick that. You want to get started with alternate picking as fast as possible because it will be the thing that lends it yourself to being able to play very fluently and smoothly. So we're going to pick down, up, down, up, down, up. Always alternate from what you were before. So if you went down before, you're going up. No matter if you switch to the next string or not, that's how we're doing it. So we're going to go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay? Now, we are now going to learn another major scale. I like to throw a lot of things at people. So there's different ways to play things on the guitar. You can play the same thing 100 different ways. And so this is an example of how you can do that. So we're going to play the exact same scale, but we're going to finger it differently. So again, we're going to start on the sixth string, 3rd fret, the G note, with our first finger. Not our second finger now, it's the first finger. And we're going to play what I like to call the rock version of the major scale. This is a much more jazzy version. It kind of keeps you to the chord. In rock, your whole goal is getting up to the high note so you can scream and be heard over everybody else. So we're going to start with the, that was a joke. We're going to start with the rock major scale, and it's kind of easy. It's almost the same thing on every string, but it does require quite a stretch. So again, your wrist is going to come out, and you're going to play the 6th string, 3rd fret, down string. We're then going to go up a whole step with our 2nd finger, and then another whole step with our 4th finger. Alright, so on the 6th string we just played. Now, often beginning students have a hard time with that 2nd finger stretch. I implore you to try it, but if you need to drop to your 3rd finger, that's fine. So, now the next string, the 5th string, we're going to play the exact same thing. We're going to go 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret. And then on the 4th string, we're going to drop up to the 4th fret, and then up to the 5th fret with the 2nd finger. So here's the whole thing. Alright, so now you have 2 scales. You have 2 major scales. You have 2 G major scales. You have this one, or you have this one. It's pretty important for you to learn both of them and to exercise with them all the time. So, now you have your first, when I pick up the guitar in the morning or in the afternoon and first start playing, you have your first scale and exercise. Alternate picking. Okay, you don't have to switch back and forth so quickly to those, but those are the 2 scales that you're going to be playing. Now, just to add things up a little bit, again, I like to get started right away. No messing around, this is rock, so I'm going to throw them at you like it is rock. There's 2 ways to play scales like this and exercises. One is called legato and one is called staccato. Staccato is what we're playing now. We're picking every note, and you can think of staccato as sticky picking. Alright, that's staccato on guitar. It's a different term for classical and stuff, but on guitar we call it picking staccato because it's cool sounding. And the other way to play is called legato, and legato is primarily a thing called hammering on. And it's a relatively advanced technique for a beginner, but you're going to start it anyway because you will become a better guitar player for it. So what that means is you're going to hit the first note and you're going to hammer on with your finger the next note. So if we're doing this, the scale that starts with your 2nd finger, we're going to hit it, and then with our pinky, hammer on the note. Then we go to the next string, hammer on the note, hammer on the note. This is Ben. I'm back for Rock 101. We are going to return to open chords. Hopefully you have mastered the 6 that you have learned so far, but we're going to just kind of go through a few of the basic ones that are left, a couple tricky ones, and we are going to then go into what everyone wants to do, which is bar chords and, more importantly, power chords. So, we learned G, D, C, E minor, A minor, and D minor. Now we're just going to basically fill in the blanks, okay? So we're going to start with an E major chord. So we're going to go basically to where we started with E minor. So that is the 2nd finger, 2nd fret of the 5th string, the third finger, second fret, fourth string, and now your first finger is going to go on the first fret of the third string. All right, and you're going to play all the strings again, one strum. There you go. E major, and very common chord, first chord in Back in Black. All right, so you're on your way to AC/DCville. So E major, and you want to make them all ring clean. Okay, the next chord we're going to do is A major. So basically we're taking all the minor chords we learned and we are making them major now. So again, here was your A minor. Alright, A major. Now there's not debate, but there's a couple ways to play this chord. I'm going to show you the first and basic way and then completely make you not do that. So, second fret, second string, third finger. Second fret, third string, second finger. And second fret, fourth string, first finger. So all your fingers are tucked onto the second fret. And you're going to strum it from the fifth string down. Okay, now that's how you teach, beginners how to play that chord. Immediately though, I'd like you to start with the more rock way of playing that chord, and it will be your first introduction to bridging, which is laying your finger over the fretboard and playing multiple notes at once. What we're going to do is we're going to take the first joint of our first finger, and we're going to bridge those notes. So we're going to bridge the second string, third string, and fourth string on the second fret. Okay, and we're going to arch our finger up, so we're not even going to worry about that first string. That first string now is going to become muted. You want to make sure you're not fretting the first string, you're muting it. And you mute it, again, by lifting up that joint. If you see it, the crux of my joint kind of lifts up. Okay, so we're going to bridge those three notes, and we're going to lie right in front of the fret there, or right behind the fret, and we're going to strum down. Alright, now that's much more of a rock. There's your rock 101 right there. If all you learned was you are now playing rock and roll. So, that is an A major chord. And we already did the D major chord, so we are now going to move on to bar chords. So get your fingers ready, it's going to hurt. Alright, we are back, and we are now ready. You've learned enough at this point. Your fingers are bleeding enough with your bar chords, and hopefully your major scale and stuff, and you've been shredding that stuff. So I'm going to give you something that all the teachers I know don't teach right away, because it can be a crutch that you stay in and be the only thing that you do, because you can get away with just playing what we like to call power chords. Now there's two ways to play power chords. One is called a fifth chord, and one is just your basic power chord. I call them all power chords because they all sound rockin'. So I'm going to teach you both ways. But the first way is what I'm going to teach you is called technically a fifth chord, but it is how I play a power chord. I call it a power chord. Pete Townsend calls it a power chord, so I think we're all cool. Alright, so the cool thing about a power chord is, again, it's just like a bar chord. It's the same thing everywhere you play it, and it actually is the first two notes of a bar chord. So let's play an F major as an E form bar chord. Alright, your typical F major. Now, the first two notes. Alright, that is called a fifth chord. Just play those two notes together. So I'm playing the first fret of the sixth string with my first finger, and I'm playing the third fret of the fifth string with my third finger. First string, first finger, sixth string, first fret. Fifth string, third finger, third fret. Alright, I'm hitting both those notes at once. And if you look, my picking has now gone into, instead of a huge downstroke, I'm just precisely picking those two notes. Later on, what you can do is you can use your first finger to touch the other strings, so you don't have to worry about just hitting those two. So you can hit all the strings at once. Again, muting is something that's terribly important with guitar. It's one of the, it almost becomes an advanced technique at some time, so it's a very important technique to start with. So we're playing a first fret power chord or fifth chord. Okay, and that would be an E form power chord because we're off the E string, and all the same rules apply that apply to an E form bar chord. Whatever note my first finger's on is what the chord is. So, for instance, we were playing a G chord. So a G is on the 3rd fret. Okay, so there's my G power chord. 3rd fret, 6th string, 5th fret, 5th string. 1st finger, 3rd finger. And again, you can also play these with your pinky, your 4th finger. Okay, now here's a G power chord, and here's a G chord. Alright, so the 10th fret is D. Same thing, you have your root note, the 10th fret with your 1st finger, and your whole step up on the 5th string with your 4th finger or your 3rd finger. Okay, and then the 8th fret is C. So there's your 8th fret, 1st finger, and then 10th fret, 4th finger. So I just played a G, D, and C power chord. Okay, now G, D, and C open chords. I can do it like that, or okay, so you can substitute with power chords, and power chords become very easy because once you get this pattern, all you really need to know is what the notes are in the E string, and you can play every chord. So it's something you can fall into a habit of doing, but it is very punk rock, and for all you punk rockers out there, it is what all these guys do. The other way to play a power chord, which I would feel inept if I did not teach it to you, although I don't use it personally, but it is the one that Billy Joe from Green Day, Kurt Cobain, guys who primarily only play power chords and bar chords, they want more notes because they're not doing very much. Though they're great, they're not doing very much. So instead of playing just the first 2 notes of a bar chord, they're playing the first 3 notes. So for F, it would be 1st fret, 3rd fret, 3rd fret. So we have 1st fret with our 1st finger, we have 3rd fret with our 3rd finger, and on the 4th string, we have the 3rd fret with our 4th finger. Alright, so if you hear the difference between them, here's the 5th chord without the 3 notes, and here's the 3-note one. So a little more open, a little more extra notes. The only thing is that this note and that note are the same thing, so you don't really need them. So I actually like the dirt grime sound of the 2-noted power chord. Okay, so if you want to use that, I'm totally cool, and I would agree with you. So now let's try Smells Like Teen Spirit with just power chords. So we're going to play. Alright, so we just have the 1st fret to the 1st fret of the A, to the 4th fret to the 4th fret of the A. So again, if you notice that, and I skipped over that pretty well, you can do a power chord off the A string too. You just move all your fingers down. So my 1st finger would be on the 1st fret of the 5th string, and my 4th finger would be on the 3rd fret of the 4th string. So there's my A form power chord. So that would be an A form power chord. Okay, so I'm going to play 1st fret E form, 1st fret A form, 4th fret E form, 4th fret A form. So okay, and again, this probably will allow you to play all the songs that you want to play. So from Green Day to Nirvana to everybody. Now, we are going to learn all the notes on the E and A strings, so when we see these chords, we can play them correctly. So if we see a G sharp power chord, G sharp chord, we can play it as a power chord. We'll know what we're talking about. So let's talk about the notes on the E and A strings. Since now those are going to be your root notes for bar chords and power chords, you should know what they are. Really, you're going to learn them better when you're playing them in songs, but we might as well talk about them. So now here we're talking about flats and sharps. So flats and sharps, for those of you who don't know, a lot of people take music in school at some point in their grade school and they learn what a flat and sharp is. But we're going to play the 5th fret of the 6th string. That's an A note, okay? Now, a sharp means a half step higher in tone. So that means that would be an A sharp, okay? Now, an A flat is a half step below in tone. So that is an A flat. So we have A flat and A sharp. Okay, so that's important to know. So a sharp is a half step up, a flat is a half step back. Now, let's go to the notes. So again, remember, there's only 12 notes, and the notes go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Completely repeat. There is no H note, so just A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D, F, G. In between those notes are sharps and flats. All the notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, have whole steps between them, except E and F, and B and C. So B and C and E and F have half steps between them, meaning there's no sharp and flat between them. So for instance, the 7th fret of the 6th string, that's B. So the next step up is C, okay? Because A, B, C, so C would be the next note, and there's no space between them. They're half step away from each other, so there's no B sharp and there's no C flat, okay? Well, there is, but technically, but you can call it that, but it's not what we care about because we're rock guys and we want as simple as we can. So let's talk about all the notes on the E string. So we're going to start with open E, and since E and F is the next note, have a half step between them, there's no whole step. The next fret would be F. Okay, and then the next fret would be F sharp, because between F and G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, there's a whole step, and so that means there's a fret in between, so that would be F sharp, and then the next note would be G. Now, if I was going the other way, and I was playing G, and go down to here, I could call that G flat. So hopefully you're coming to the realization that we all have that F sharp and G flat, or G sharp and A flat, are the same note. And only in reading music does it really matter, because if you say F sharp or G flat, everyone's going to know what you're talking about. Okay, so let's talk about the notes. So we have E, open, F, 1st fret, 2nd fret, F sharp or G flat, 3rd fret, G, 4th fret, G sharp or A flat, 5th fret, A, 6th fret, A sharp or B flat, 7th fret, B, 8th fret, C, 9th fret, C sharp or D flat, 10th fret, D, throw that in, 11th fret, D sharp, E flat, and 12th fret back to your E. So those are all the notes. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then you're back to your octave, which is E. An octave is, of course, the same note played at a higher register. So, for instance, here's an E, here's an E, here's an E, here's an E. All right, so you can play the same note a variety of different places, which is why you'll start to see all this stuff come together that, oh, it's all the same thing, just played in different ways over and over again. Okay, so you now know your notes on the E string. So now we're going to go to notes on the A string. And funnily enough, the notes on the A string, if you start on the 5th fret of the E string, the A note, that is the same as your open A string. Those are also tuning notes, which we'll get into at some point, but I highly implore you to get a tuner as fast as you can, so you can just call it a day. There's some things that technology really helps with. All right, so basically what we're doing is with the A string, you're starting from the 5th fret of the E string. So the next note would be A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D on the 5th fret, 6th fret, D sharp or E flat, 7th fret, E, 8th fret, since E and F have no whole step between them, they're a half step, so F, 9th fret, F sharp, G flat, 10th fret, G, 11th fret, G sharp, A flat, and then we're back to A on the 12th fret. Alright, so you know your notes on the E and A strings now. You'll see them in the chart. There should be a graph of it, and so you'll see all the notes on the E and A string. Those are all your root notes for your power chords, so now you can play every power chord on the planet. And you are now completely filed to play. We're going to play what's called pumping eighth notes, which is a very punk rock term, so this is for all you punk rockers, but this will get you to just be playing songs really quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a 5th fret E form power chord, or a 5E, and we're going to play a 5th fret A form power chord, 5A, to a 7th fret A form power chord, 7A. So I will start talking about these chords designated power chords like 1E, 2A, and that will be where your first finger is and what string you're on. Alright, so we're going to play a 5th fret E form power chord, 5E. Alright, and now we're going to play 2 bars of that, and we're going to be playing 8th notes. And just like a dollar, a measure can be broken up into segments. So right now we're playing 4 beats per segment. And so what we're going to do is we're going to double that up, and we're going to play 8 beats per thing. And the way you do that is by you count 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are 4 beats. When your foot is up though, and remember, always tap your foot. Whenever you're in a car, whenever you're anywhere, tap your foot to music. Get rhythm. If you don't have rhythm, you can't play. So you want to go dancing. If you're a dude and you don't like dancing, dance anyway. Anything to move to music. You gotta feel music. You gotta start listening to lots of music, all sorts of music. Listen to anything you can get your hands on. Listen, listen, listen. Tap, tap, tap. All right. Get your foot. Your foot needs to be your meter to the rock, and that's what will drive everything. So you need to have good rhythm. You need to have time and rhythm. But we'll get into time later. All right. So what we're going to play is we're going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what we're doing is a 5th fret E form power chord. And I'm playing downstrokes only, and I'm playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you tap your foot, you'll notice the ands are when your foot is up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's why when your foot is down, that's called the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. When your foot is up, it's called the upbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So now we're playing on the downbeat and the upbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So those are 2 measures of 8th notes playing a 5th fret E form power chord. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Obviously sped up. Now we're going to the 5th fret of the A string. All right, A form power chord, 5A. Same thing, 2 measures, 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then we're going to go to the 7th fret of the A string, 7A, power chord. Same thing, 2 measures. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, put it all together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 All right, I ended with a 5E, obviously, with 2 measures. All right, now, played really fast, that will sound very punk rock. All right, so that is your introduction to punk rock. If that's all you learn, you'll be able to start a band, go, make millions, and send them to me. Rock. Alright, now we're going to get into some serious rock guitar, which the rock lead guitar, which is what you've all been waiting for. Lead guitar is based solely, if you ask me, on something called the pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale, penta meaning 5, which is 5 notes of the major scale, and is the scale that everybody bases their leads off of. Even if they say they don't, they are wrong. As far as rock guitar goes, this is the holy grail. So this will be your total introduction to being able to play lead, and this is the scale, again, just like the major scale is everything you want to know about music, this is everything you want to know about lead guitar. So memorizing the scale and playing it up and down, back and forth is everything you want to do. And it's a relatively easy scale to learn. It will comprise of all the strings, and it's only 2 notes per string. And so we're just going to start off with it. I like to start things when I play things up in the middle of the neck, just to have some centering. So we're going to start on the 5th fret of the E string, which is of course an A note. Okay, and now we are going to start with this 5th fret, A. We're going to jump a whole step and a half step up with our 4th finger to the 8th fret. We're going to go down to the 5th string, 5th fret. 7th fret with our 3rd finger, 4th string, 5th fret, 7th fret with our 3rd finger again, 3rd string, 5th, 3rd string, 7th, 2nd string, 5th, 2nd string, 8th, 1st string, 5th, and 1st string, 8th. Alright, so let's do that again. We're going to play 1st finger, 4th finger, 1st finger, 3rd, 1st finger, 3rd, 1st finger, 3rd, 1st finger, 4th, 1st finger, 4th. So it's a pretty easy scale to memorize. If you looked at it, the sixth string, the first string you're playing, has this pattern. A whole step and a half step jump. And the last two strings have that pattern. And the strings in the middle all have 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. First finger, third finger, first finger, third finger, first finger, third finger. Alright, so let's look at that again. Let's play it slow. Alright, and now of course let's start going down scales. Alright, we're going to do that again, and I'm going to do a little slower this time, so you do this along with me. So we're going to start 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. All right, so that is an A minor pentatonic. And right now we're doing the minor pentatonic, although later you'll learn the major pentatonic, which is actually the exact same thing, just played in a different place. But so now, let's start with all the whole noted minor pentatonic scales. So we have F, first fret. G, third fret. A, fifth. B, seventh. C, eighth. D, 10th. And then back to E, or not back to E, but E, 12th. And then F would be the 13th. Okay, so that is the pentatonic scale, and that is the pentatonic scale on all the whole notes. That will be the scale that you were using to play leads with. Again, remember when you are practicing this scale, you want to try doing alternate picking. Down, up, and legato. Now, since this is a scale that you're actually going to be bending a lot of notes with, it is the one time that I will make this declaration that using your fourth finger for lead playing has its place and sometimes doesn't have its place, because bending with your fourth finger doesn't give you as much dirt to me as bending with your third finger or second finger. So what I like to do is when I get to the top notes of the scale, I like to change my finger position, move my hand this way, point my third finger this way so I can make the stretch, and use my third finger instead of my fourth finger there. So. Alright, that is completely up to you, but it's the way I like to do it, and it's the way I would show you if it were up to me. And it is, so I did. So, lots of people come to me being the lead guitar player of a band. I am the lead guitar player for a band called Famous in the States. And we are a hard rock, kind of shredding guitar lead band. And people always come up to me and ask me for riffs, little riffs that they can add into their playing. Everyone's looking for another thing to add to their bag of tricks. And so I'm going to go through a bunch of things that I use and utilize when I'm playing. The first thing is warming up for shred. And there's two things you need to warm up. You need to warm up your legato and you need to warm up your staccato. I also personally am a big bending lead guitar player. I bend a lot, so I do bending exercises and vibrato exercises, which are the two things to me, vibrato and bending. If you learn anything from anything, those are the two important key ingredients to good guitar playing. Bending and vibrato are the two things that really hold a note well. And again, we are playing music. We're not just technicians playing notes. You don't want to sound scaly and lame all the time when you're playing. You want to sound like you're playing a song inside your solo. If Eric Clapton taught us anything, and Jimi Hendrix, it is that. So from the Jimi Hendrix and Eric Clapton School of Guitar, I am now going to go into shred, which they don't do. But all right, so shred warm-up number 1. There's 3 positions that you should do. And these are for intermediate to advanced students, so all of you should have no problem with hammer-ons and alternate picking and scales and all that stuff. So the first one is, I like to go through all the formats of playing. So the first one is a 1, 2, 4 progression on each string. You have all right, and you climb up the neck with that, and then you do a legato. And so on and so on. I like to start on the 5th fret because, again, I like to start in the middle of the guitar. So yeah, so I'm just going to warm up myself for a second. Alright, that kind of thing. My chops are slow right now, so I've got to speed them up. So that's a legato exercise, and then you switch your fingers to 1, 3, 4, and then you can do the big spread, the whole step thing, that kind of stuff. Alright, so now the next one is my typical staccato picking thing, and it's based off of a chromatic pentatonic scale riff, and the riff is going to go. Alright, so you're going to go. And remember, when you start to pick fast, and my amp is working against me right now, you want to use very little pick. A good trick that I've learned from some advanced players is turning your pick is always good, to slice the string a little bit so you can get some speed out of it. So. Alright, so that kind of thing, you want to climb up the neck of the guitar with it. You can do like 2 strings at once if you want to. And that will get you warmed up. So I'm going to sit warm up for a second. Alright, so and then you stop and you chop it up and you're rocking. So we're ready to go. Okay, so now riffs that you can incorporate into your playing. I like to keep them pentatonic stylized, but a couple things people don't do in lead guitar enough, if you ask me, is add chromatics and other notes to their pentatonic leads, and incorporate open strings. Open strings are the secret to rock. They're the thing that most people don't do. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an open string exercise, and we're going to do it in the key of G. And it's going to go something like this. We're going to start with the open D string. Alright, you're going to hammer on up to the 5th fret. Alright, that's the riff that we're going to be playing. I'll play it really slow. So what you're going to want to do, it's a tricky little thing, it's a very complicated riff, so this is definitely an advanced guitar riff. You want to look at the tab of it first of all, but I'll try to play it a little slower. Alright, now you speed it up a little bit. You can move it around everywhere you want to go. Alright, so I'm going to play it in G, I'm going to play it in A, I'm going to play it in D, and I'm going to play it in E. Alright, so that's shred riff A, and that's incorporating open strings. All right, for our next riff, higher noted riffs are very desired by people. And so what I'm going to do is give you a little legato shred riff, which is a good thing to do when you've climbed up your solo and you've played your melodies and stuff and you want to add some stuff to your, you want to add some excitement to your solo. This is going to be based on the E pentatonic minor. So, all right, since we're all familiar with that, and what we're going to do is we are going to use extra notes. We're going to put the 2 in here. Alright, so the riff's going to sound like this. Alright, but it's something you can shred over and over again, so. Alright, so that over and over again. I'll play it slow again. So that's riff 2. Now we're going to go on to riff 3. In riff 3, a lot of people want to know how to go up and down the pentatonic scale and how to do it without just playing the simple, that kind of stuff. And what I like to do is, again, adding chromatics to pentatonic scales is always the best way to do it. So we're going to do this in... We're going to do an E pentatonic minor, okay? And the riff starts out with an escalating run. All right, and then you're going to start climbing down. All right, now I'm going to do that slower, and we're going to look for the pattern in it. All right, that's your start riff. And that's where the riff starts. All right, slower. Shred riff number 2. Alright, I'm going to talk now about pinch harmonics, which you can call them false harmonics, call them anything you want to call them. A lot of people utilize those things, and what we're going to do is we're going to start with a pinch harmonic. And a good way to find the pinch harmonics on your guitar are you want to look at all your notes and you know your guitar well. Obviously high gain and all those things help a lot with pinch harmonics and making them scream really like a Zakk Wylde kind of guy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start a riff on the A pentatonic minor. I got it the 4th time. So what I'm going to do is show you the riff really slow. We're going to try and end it with a pinch harmonic. And again, so the way you do a pinch harmonic is you are trying to hit the pick at such a level, you kind of angle your finger up like this, and you want to hit your thumb immediately after you hit the pick with it. I'm of course playing a Telecaster, which is not prone to really great pinch harmonics, but here's the riff. All right, slower. Now you're going to watch your guitar player find the pinch harmonic in the right place. So we're going to take the 5th fret of the 3rd string. And there it is, up there. So, and that also creates a cool effect, by the way, though. All right, so a lot of people also ask me for tapping shreds and stuff like that. And tapping is a very, very, very tedious guitar technique due to its trickery soundingness. Eddie Van Halen obviously made it cool. Eddie Van Halen, though, is a very, very, very world-class musician, very musical with his tapping. Tapping can get out of control and sound very, 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 very technical very quickly. I like to avoid that by throwing extra things into my tapping. So one of the interesting things to do with tapping is bending with your tapping. And I'm going to give you a quick riff of bending with tapping and also more right hand use. So this is an intermediate to advanced tapping technique. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple E minor tapping exercise starting on the E pentatonic minor and then moving up to the actual minor notes. And we're going to start with the 17th fret of the second string for our tapping note. And we're going to be going down to the 12th fret of the second string and up to the 15th fret. So that's our simple tapping. All right, we all can do that. That's a very easy one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add another note with our right hand. So we're going to go. All right, and that's what we're going to start with that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to climb, just like all of our favorite classic eruption thing. We're going to climb with our right hand, and we're going to end up on a shredding bend. All right, so we're going to play. Very Vernon Reid there, bending a tapped note. And you bend the tap note obviously the same way you bend any other note, and vibratoing it is always good, so your left hand is always staying the same. So let's do that again slowly. Up to the 19th fret. 20. Alright, Canon in D is a very popular song by Pachelbel, and I'm going to give you a way to shred it, that if you can master it and kick its butt, then you're going to kick the butt of all the people around the world who are shredding this currently on their Ibanez's and fuzz pedals. So let's go through the chords really quickly. It's a D chord, A, B minor, F sharp minor, G, D, G, A. Alright, now, along with the melody of Pachelbel, which if you don't know it, you can go listen to it and find it out yourself, what we're going to do is we're going to do a string skipping exercise. We're going to skip strings with this riff, and we are going to arpeggiate, of course playing the notes and the chords separately, the chords in the song. So we're going to start with a D arpeggio. Alright, and the way we're going to start that is with the third of the D on top, which will be the 14th fret of the first string. And we're going to go down to the root. Now we're going to skip to the third string, so we're going to skip the second string, that's why it's called string skipping, and it actually makes everything a little more complicated. So we're going to go. Alright, so I just went 3, 1. Alright, and there's your arpeggio right there. Alright, all 1, 3, 5s right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up it, and then we're going to go down it. Alright, ending on the root. Alright, so there's our D arpeggio. Now we're going to go to our A arpeggio. And we're going to start basically the same thing, but opposite way. So we're going to go down the arpeggio. Alright, starting on the A, 12th fret of the A string. 1, 3, 5. Then. So we're skipping the third string. So we're doing. Alright, slower because this one's a little tricky. Second string. Back second string. So we have, alright, which is, now we're going to go to our B minor arpeggio. Alright, and the way we're going to do that is the same way as we did the D. We're going to start on the minor third of B minor on the 10th fret of the first string, and we're going to go down to the root, skipping to the third string, and back to the root, and back up. So, again, slower. Alright, here we have. Alright, now comes the F sharp minor arpeggio. Again, like the A, it's going to be based off of the A string, and it's going to start on the F sharp, which is the 9th fret, and we're going to start with just a typical minor arpeggio. Alright, and then we're going to skip to the second string. Alright, slower. Alright, now we're going to go to the G arpeggio, which is going to be just like the D arpeggio, but it's going to be in G. And so if the D was up here, G is down here. So this is where the stretching becomes a little harder, and we're going to be doing the same thing, string skipping, and we're going to play that exact same arpeggio that we did with the D. Alright, slower. Okay, so we have then to the D arpeggio, because we're going back to D, and we're going to do a D arpeggio just like we did the A arpeggio up here. So it's going to start on the A string, 5th fret, which is D, and just starts with the major arpeggio. Skip the string. Alright, so we have the, from the G to the A, G to the D, I'm sorry. Then it goes back to the G again. Then it's going to go to an A arpeggio. Same notes, but different place. So we're going to start on, this time we're starting on the different arpeggio. We're starting on the 4th string, D string, and we're going to start on the A on the 4th string, which is 7th fret, and just play that major arpeggio. And then 1, 3. Slower. Alright, so you have. Alright, shred the crap out of that and blow everybody away.